All right, welcome everybody. The sound should be good. We are live here with Cardboard versus Plastic, episode 4. And so maybe about a month ago when I first started to do board game coverage, I put out a poll in the YouTube community, and people responded, and actually the majority of people wanted to see how to play videos. So so we're going to start to do that and give people what they want. We will also do reviews and playthroughs, but if people want how to play, we can certainly do that. And we are going to start tonight with one of my favorite games, which is Great Western Trail by Alexander Pfister and published by Eggert, Spiele. Now, this is one of my favorite games right now. Probably top 3 games right now. It's a great game. It's a medium to heavy Euro style game, which is the kind of game that I like. And we're going to start with this one as the first how to play. We'll see how it goes. I've been setting this up for days, dealing with the cameras, getting extra cables, setting the board up. We got a new stream deck to try and make things smoother, which is a really cool thing, by the way. I can't believe I've been streaming for so many years and not discovered this device. But hopefully it's going to run all smoothly, and you can let me know. Let me know in the comments below if you like this kind of format of how to play. Obviously, it's not going to be as smooth as a nicely produced and edited how to play video because we are live. But hopefully it's going to be just as beneficial, and we'll try and throw some tidbits of strategy and things like that in while we go. So let me know below what you think of this kind of thing and what kind of changes you'd like to make. And I apologize in advance for any mistakes. We're doing it live, so I can't edit them out. The other thing to say is I could have started with a simpler game, to be honest, but I didn't want to. I wanted to pick a game that I liked, and I also actually, when I was looking for, when I got this game, how to play for 2nd edition Great Western Trail, there were not many videos of that. Most of the videos were made years ago for the 1st edition. There are some videos comparing 1st and 2nd edition, but not really how to play on 2nd edition. Now, most of the rules are exactly the same. There are some small changes, but hopefully this will fill a small little missing gap in the community out there. So, for no further ado, we will go to the table. All right, let's see if this works. Okay. All right, so here we have the game table, and you see that it is, we're trying to capture the whole board. It's a big setup, and this is set up for 2 players. And so what we're going to do is go over the anatomy of what you're seeing. We're going to look at the board, and we're going to tell you how to set up, and then we'll go into how to play. In the right corner of the screen, you will see this roving camera. And the roving camera will reposition itself as needed to close-ups, and we can switch to the roving camera as needed because now we have this cool little stream deck. And we can just hide that as we need. Okay, so first thing to notice is the board. And so what the board is showing you is that this is the Great Western Trail. And this is a game that takes place in, I guess, the 19th century America. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to herd cattle from the starting area, which is down here in the bottom right of the board. Don't exactly know. The video seems laggy. Let's see. You know what? We're going to cut this, see if that improves the lag a little bit. Okay. Anyway, so it doesn't seem to improve the lag there. Oh, man. Nope. that has definitely improved it. And let's see if we can put our other camera back in. Okay. That seems to be working again. Okay. Okay, here we go. That should be better. Okay, let's start again. So we're here in the 19th century America trying to herd our cows from this corner of the board up to Kansas City, which is that corner of the board. And along the way, we have this trail, which granted on the board, because it's so bright and vibrant, is hard to see, but you can just make out the trail here. It snakes around the countryside and goes up this way. And so what you're trying to do is herd your cattle from here to Kansas City, and you're going to do that multiple times over the course of the game. And what you want to do is you start off with a hand of cattle, so that's your hand of cards. And these are these cards down here, and the cards in your hand. And you want to improve your herd in terms of its value by the time you get to Kansas City. So you get the most money in Kansas City, and that will then allow you to deliver the highest value cows across America all the way possibly to New York City by train. And so that's what you're trying to do in the game. This game doesn't have any set rounds, and so you may end up doing that many times through a game until the end of the game. And then all the victory points are scored at the end of the game. So there's no scoring of points during the game. It is all calculated at the end. So to set the game up, first of all, you put the board out, and there's only one side. And then you set up the board as follows. So first of all, you have these station master tiles, and you have a selection of station master tiles. And so these are the station master tiles. Oh, sorry. And the station master tiles, there's a selection of 9 of them, and you're going to put 5 of them out in any one game. And so that's a difference from first edition, where you only had a set number. And these tiles are little bonuses that you're going to get for upgrading the train stations as you go. And they tell you an immediate bonus that you're going to get right away for picking up the tile, and an end game bonus. Okay? And so the first thing you do is you set up 5 station master tiles for those 5 stations across the top of the board. Okay? Then the next thing you do is you take these neutral building cards. So the neutral building cards are these gray building tiles. And what these show you is, and you can see here that there's a little letter here, okay, and they're lettered A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And on the board, actually, the neutral building squares are also labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay? And for your first game, you actually just put the B tile on the B spot. But in future games, you randomize it, okay? And what these tiles is neutral buildings that any player can go and benefit from, and we'll go over those benefits later, but these are benefits that you get for landing on that tile, on that place, and any player can make use of those, okay? And so what you do is you set up the neutral tiles in their appropriate space around the board, okay? Then the next thing you do is you set up this kind of job market area. Okay, and so the job market area is basically for 2 players, 3 players, or 4 players, and you put these, workers on there from these bags, and these bags contain these 3 different types of workers as well as hazards. Okay, so first, what you're going to do. So let's show you a variety of these people. Okay, so here are the 3 kinds of workers that you have in the game. This is the craftsman, This is the cowboy, okay, which is blue, so purple, blue, and this kind of yellowy brown is the engineer, okay? Craftsmen help you build buildings, cowboys help you get better cows, and engineers help move your train further, okay? So those are the three worker types that you're going to be able to recruit. There's two types of outlaws in the game, okay? And so there's the orange outlaw and the green outlaw. They're not any different except for their color, which comes important later, and also the color of this hand symbol, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then finally, there's hazards. There are water hazards, which is this blue symbol, and go in this water hazard area. There's this desert drought hazard, which is this kind of desert symbol, and they go in this drought area. And at the top here, there are rockfall hazards, which is that kind of rocky symbol, and they go in that area of the board up there. Okay, so the first thing you do is you take 7 type hazards from this number 1 bag, which has hazards in it, outlaws and hazards, and you place them in the appropriate part of the board, okay? And what we didn't point out is this middle area of the board here is the outlaw area, and you just put them in order as numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? And so that's the next thing you do. Okay, then the next thing you do is you need to fill this job market. So first you put this number 2 marker, which marks, it's just kind of the timer of the game, okay? And this goes here on the second row, okay? And then you fill these spaces starting from the top, left to right, depending on the number of players you have. So we're playing a 2-player game, so that's the number 2 player space. So you just fill 2 people there from the number 2 bag, okay? And the number 2 bag contains just workers, okay? And then you fill these in until you get to that round marker. And what happens is every time you go to Kansas City, some of these workers are going to fill this job market and thus push this marker down, okay, as every time somebody hits Kansas City. And eventually, when this marker drops off the bottom of the board, that signals the end of the game, okay? So that's kind of the timer. So depending on how many times you get to Kansas City, you actually, working towards the end of the game. Okay, so that's the job market. The other thing to note about the job market is that to buy people from the job market is going to cost you this amount of gold, which is indicated by the gold symbols on the side of the job market, depending on which row, okay? And so workers can cost anywhere from as little as $4 or $5 all the way up to $7, $8, $9, okay? And then there's a little cow symbol here and here as well. And once the round kind of progress marker passes this cow symbols, that will also cause this cow market to refill, which we'll talk about later. Okay, then the next thing you do is you fill this number 1, 2, and 3 spaces up here with tokens from the number 1, 2, and 3 bags, which is the things that you're going to do when you hit Kansas City. Okay, next thing you do is you make the cattle market. So the cattle market is down here, these cards with cows on them. And so we're going to show you this cattle market. Okay, so these are cow cards, and as you can see, cow cards are a certain color. Every type of cow is a different color. There is a number at the top, right and left, it's the same thing, and that is the value of the cow, okay, in terms of how much money you're going to get for it when you deliver it to Kansas City, okay? And then down here is the number of victory points that you're going to get if this cow is in your deck at the end of the game. And the victory point symbol is this kind of yellow orangey shield symbol. And then there's the picture of the cow and the name of the cow. Now, you'll notice here, so that's a short horn, which is a value 4 cow. And you'll see here that even though this is the same cow, some of them are 4 victory points and some of them are 5 victory points. So, and same with these. So here are some level value 3 cows, but you'll see here that they're different colors, okay? And they're different victory point levels. Even the same color cow may have different victory point levels, okay? And the most valued cows are these kind of quality 5 cows, okay? And so what happens in a 2-player game is you set up this cow market with 10 cows, okay? In higher player count games, you're gonna have more cows as indicated by this part of the board here, and you just put them out into quality 3 cows, quality 4 cows, and quality 5 cows, and line them up in order so it's easy to see, okay? And this area here, which we'll talk about when we talk about buying cows, tells you what you need to pay in order to buy those cows, okay? But this is the cattle market, and this will just empty as people buy it until you cross these yellow points in the game, when the cow market will then restock. However, you can use cowboys to refill the market with cows, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so you set the cow market up and you're ready to go. The next thing you do is you set up the objectives. So this is an example of an objective card, and the objectives are things that you're trying to accomplish by the end of the game, okay? And so what this card shows you, first of all, is, so this is the symbol for an objective card, this kind of bugle symbol. This symbol up here tells you what happens when you play the card out from your hand into your play area on your turn. It's like an instant benefit, one time. And then this tells you the conditions you need to achieve in order to get your victory point bonus at the end, which is here, 3 victory points. If you achieve that bonus by the end of the game, you get 3 victory points. If you do not, you actually get -2 victory points, okay? Now, when you have an objective, when you get an objective in the game, it's gonna just go into your deck. You see here, the back of the objective cards have the same backing as the cows, okay? So it's just gonna be another card in your deck, and you can draw it from your deck into your hand. And when it's in your hand, you need to decide whether you're going to declare this as an objective you're going to achieve at the end of the game, or whether you just leave it in your deck. Now, if you just leave it in your deck, you have the option of trying to achieve it, but if you don't get the penalty because you didn't declare it. You didn't play it into your area, okay? If you decide to declare it and play it from your hand into your personal objective area, it's live, you get this bonus, and now you're committed to trying to get this, to get your 3 points, otherwise you're gonna get -2. So if you declare it and you play it, you get the bonus, and you could be subject to penalty. But if you just leave it in your deck, you're not subject to the penalty. However, you don't get that instant play bonus. And also, it's clogging up your hand. You're going to draw it repeatedly over the course of the game, and it doesn't do anything else on a turn-by-turn basis, okay? So that's what these objectives are. These symbols are all covered in the rule book. I won't go over what all these symbols mean, but they're fairly straightforward. So for example, this one means you need to have a token on a station, and you need to have have cleared an orange outlaw and a green outlaw, and you would achieve that objective. Okay. The other type of objective is these ones, and these are the starter objectives, of which there are 4, and you randomly get one of these at the beginning of the game. And you see, these don't go into your deck. These are blue, okay, and these just sit in your play area, okay, from the beginning of the game, and you can try and achieve this, and if you do, you'll get 3 points at the end of the game. If you don't achieve this, there's no penalty. So it's kind of like a bonus free objective that you get. It's usually fairly easy to get, so it's kind of some victory points you can bank on, and that just sits there and everybody gets a slightly different one at the beginning of the game. There's only 4, and so you're gonna get one of those. Okay, so those are the objectives. Okay, next you create a bank. So, you know, the game comes with coins, and so you want to create a bank, and so our bank is over there. We use the iron clays, and also then you give everyone one of these exchange tokens. So these are exchange tokens, these little things. Each player gets 1 to start the game, and this is something that's only in 2nd edition, exchange tokens. And what this allows you to do is to pick up 2 cards and ditch 2 cards from your hand at any time during your turn, which is a pretty powerful ability, and there's limited ways of getting more of these tokens. Okay, so we'll talk about those later. Okay, now you want to set up your player board. So let's zoom in on the blue player's player board here. So here's the player board, and you see here this is a typical dual-sided player board that allows you to place things in it And as you go and you take away these discs, you're going to reveal more bonuses and abilities that you can do, okay? So over here, under this cogwheel symbol, are what's called the auxiliary actions, okay? And at the start of the game, you only have these two actions you can do: get $1, draw a card, and ditch a card. And these actions you can do at any, when you land on any building, one time, okay? And you can even do that when you land on someone else's building, where normally you would not be able to use any actions. And then as you take these discs away, which you'll be able to do at various points in the game, you will reveal other actions that you can take, and or the ability to take an action twice when you're able to do a double action, okay? Double auxiliary action. So that's the auxiliary side. This part here just shows that your guy can move 3 spaces as standard, but as you remove these discs, he's going to be able to move up to 5 spaces in a turn by removing these 2 discs, okay? This area here tells you what these hand symbols will cost when you cross them on the board, and we'll come to that in a minute. But basically the hand is like a toll, and so these hands in a 2-player game each cost 2 gold to pass. In more player games, the green one actually costs less. This is just a reminder of what to do on your turn. And then this area here tells you that your hand size starts at 4 cards, okay? But as you remove these discs, your hand size is going to go up to 6 cards, and you definitely want to do that. So those are that, okay? This section here, this kind of certificate symbol, purple certificate symbol, is basically the value certificates for your herd. And you start at 0, but as you gain certificates, you're going to move this box down and up to keep track of how many certificates you have, and you can get up to 6 certificates if you end up removing these discs, okay? And certificates basically add $1 of value to your herd when you hand it in Kansas City. So the more of these you get, the more money you're going to get when you go to Kansas City. And finally, this is our worker area. So you see here that you start the game with 1 of each worker, and you can never go less than 1 of each worker. So 1 cowboy, 1 craftsman, 1 engineer. And as you recruit people from the job market, you actually just put the tiles here. Okay, and the more you recruit, you're going to unlock bonuses at certain points. And if you can get to 5 or 6 of these, you're going to get 4 victory points for each of those columns that you end up filling at the end of the game. Okay, so you see here you need at least 4 of these 2 to get a bonus, but you see here the engineer gives you a bonus every time you add. And there are times when you're going to take these guys out of this area and put them back on the board. And so then if you re-add a person at a later time, you get that bonus again. So you can kind of double and triple dip on bonuses if you keep getting people and adding new people and then taking them away and re-adding them. And so that is your player board. It's fairly straightforward. It just helps you keep track of things. And the goal is to get rid of as many of these discs as possible and add workers. Okay, then we keep track of our money. Okay, we have our cowboy cowherder meeple, which is this wooden thing that has a color hat that matches your color. That's also a 2nd edition feature, these cowboy hats. And while they're cool, they kind of get in the way a little bit when you play. But anyway, we each get 1 of these 2 times tokens, as we said before, exchange tokens. And then we each have our own set of buildings that are our own private buildings, and we have 12 of them. Okay, and so just like the neutral buildings, these buildings are also numbered 1 to 12, and there's an A side, okay, 1A, and there's a B side, okay, which is slightly different. Generally, the value of the buildings goes up from 1 to 12, although there are a few exceptions. And generally, they're harder to build from 1 to 12, 1 being the easiest, okay? And so the first game, you just play all A side, but then every game after that, you can actually randomize which buildings you play A and B. All the players play the same set, so the same A's and B's, but that really gives you a lot of variability to how the game is played, okay? And so these are buildings that you're going to be able to build and put onto the board in those empty spaces wherever you like, okay? And so the board fills with buildings as the game goes on. So Now let's look at these buildings for a minute. So the building tile is basically the same. So at this top left corner here, this purple symbol represents the craftsman. If you remember, the craftsman is this lady here has a purple background. So just remember purple, purple. So the craftsman, this number here tells you how many craftsmen you need to have in your player board in order to build this building. Okay, so this one just needs one. You always have one, if you remember. So you can always build level 1 buildings at any time. Okay. This victory point symbol up here tells you if this building is on the board at the end of the game, that's how many victory points it gives you. Okay, this is just a picture. Some buildings will have this hand symbol again. Okay, same as the other ones, blue or a green or black hand symbol. In fact, some buildings have 2 hand symbols. Okay, like this one. So it has both, costs both a green and a black one. And what this does is anytime any other player passes through this building, they don't have to stop here, even just passing through it, they're gonna have to pay you that toll, or $2 in this case, okay? So it's pretty good to have these scattered around. And then down here is the bonuses that, and actions that you can take if you land on your own building. If somebody else lands on your building, they don't get to do any of these actions, but they can do an auxiliary action. But you get to use the action of your own buildings only, okay? All right, so that's basically that. Now, let's look at this. Let's look at this building. So this is the 9A building, and this says, you might notice, that it takes 7 craftsmen to build, but you only have space for 6 craftsmen on your board. So how do you do that? So what you have to do to build this is you have to build this and replace an existing building. Okay, let's say you have this building. Okay, so you would have this building. Okay, guys, I just my wireless mics have run out of battery, so just switching over to the Yeti here. Give me a moment. Okay, I don't know how much people missed, but anyway, so we're talking about this hand of cards. So this hand of cards will get you 7 points and $7 at Kansas City, and you could deliver to a city up to 7 value because these are all unique cows, and so they all count, and so that's 7. So in fact, the maximum value you can get in your original starting deck with 4 cards only is 7. Okay, so that's an important bit of information for your first few turns of strategy. Okay, so that's generally how it works. So what you want to do as the game goes on is to get rid of all these low value cows and replace them with the higher value cows and different cows so that you can build greater value herds. Okay, because what you don't want to do is end up at Kansas City and like this is your hand, because that's useless and you have no money and you can't do anything with no money. So that is kind of a part of the deck building part of the game, is to manipulate your herd as you go along the trail until you get to Kansas City with the highest value that you possibly can. And also generally improve your overall herd, which is your deck, to have better value cards and to get rid of the lower value cards. Okay, so the first player will have 4 cards to start with and $6. The second player will have $1 more and have the option of picking 4 out of 5 cards, and so on for the third and fourth player. Okay, so that's the kind of deck building, hard management part of the game. Okay, so now we'll talk about how this game goes. So as I mentioned, let's get rid of that. So the game takes place in turns in clockwise order, and it just keeps going around and around until the game ends. The timer is this little thing that moves down. There's no rounds, and all the scoring is at the end of the game. So when it's your turn, you have a choice of, you have actually 3 things to do. One is to move, and then secondly is to take an action at the place where you stopped moving. And then the third thing you do is you draw back up until you have your hand size, which is 4 for most of the game, but eventually it becomes 5 and 6. So that's it. 3 things. So move, do an action or multiple actions, and then draw back up to hand size. Okay? Pretty straightforward. And then it's the next person's turn, and you keep going around and around and around until the game ends. Okay. So how do you move? Okay, so first, in the first turn of the game, the first thing you're going to do is to place your meeple on one of these neutral buildings of your choice, and you can put them on a building where there's another player. Okay, and so you don't actually do a move in your first turn. You just put it onto the building of your choice and take that building's action. Okay, and then from that point onwards, you move your cowboy whenever it's your turn. So how far can you move? So the player mat tells us that we can move 3 spots, okay? And eventually you can unlock ability to move further. So what is one move? So one move is going from one building to another building along the path, okay? So these are all empty spots, okay? Therefore, that is one move from there to there, okay? A second move would be here, third move would be here. Okay, so at the beginning when there's not a lot of buildings, you can move a long way with only 3 moves, but as these spots fill up with other people's and your own buildings, it takes more move to get anywhere. Okay, you have to move at least 1, but you don't have to move your max. You can move as many, you have to move at least 1, you can move as many as you want, okay? If you pass, you have to follow these paths. So at this point here's the trailhead, which you're going to come back to after your first delivery to Kansas City. And every time you finish delivering to Kansas City, you're going to start back at this point here. Okay, this is the first building you're going to hit no matter what. And then from here, the path branches. One is this path here that just has empty building spots. And then one is this hazard area. So you're like, well, why would I ever go along this hazard area? The hazard areas cost me money because there's hand symbols to get to go through. So why would I do that? Well, these building spots in the hazard areas give you extra bonuses if you were to put a building there, okay? And they're pretty good bonuses. So if you build a building there and you can end up using these buildings, you can get extra bonuses. And there are ways of clearing these hazards away. And in fact, sometimes you want to clear the hazards away because they give you victory points for the hazards, because the hazards have victory point symbols on them. And also some of the objectives require you having cleared some hazards, okay? And we'll show you how to clear hazards later. Otherwise, you generally place buildings, and so you can go this way or you can go this way. You can never go backwards, okay? But when you come to a split point, you have to decide which way to go. So again, at this building, it splits this way or through the drought hazard area. Again, here, it splits. You can go through the outlaw area, which generally is difficult, or you can go around the outlaws. 2 different ways, okay? And then from here, you can go that way or through the rockfall area. And then from there, it splits once again and splits once again, and then you end up in Kansas City. So you always got to move forward. You got to go at least one space. You can go up to your maximum move, okay? So the move is pretty simple. Okay, so the second part of your turn after you've moved is to do the actions on the building where you landed. If you land on a neutral building or your own building, you can take the full actions on those tiles. If you land on an opponent's building, the only thing you can do is your auxiliary actions, okay? So generally you want to try and land on either your own or neutral buildings. So what can you do? So let's take this tile as an example. Okay, so this is the neutral building B tile. And what this shows you, so first of all, you see here, there's actually 2 actions on here, okay? And this is separated by this divider, okay? So this means you can take this action and this action in whichever order you want once when you land there, okay? This action means you discard a green 2 cow to get $2, okay? And then this action means you get to build a building onto the top map at the cost of $2 per craftsman required, okay? And so this neutral building B allows you to get rid of green cows for money and to use money to build new buildings. When you build a building, as we mentioned before, you just have to pay that cost, so $2 per craftsman required. So in this case, level 1 building would require $2. And then you just place this on any empty tile on the board, okay? And then that just stays there the rest of the game. And so that's what this tile does. This is building A, neutral building A, and this is the recruitment kind of workers building. So this building lets you do up to 3 actions, which you can take any or none. This allows you to ditch a white cow for $2, and then you can hire from the job market. The first one is just the cost that's stated on the side of the job market. And the second one means that you can hire a second worker at an extra cost of $2 on top of the cost on the job market. So it's potential to get rid of card for money and get 2 workers, okay? Okay, this is neutral building C. We're not going to go through all of them, but just gives you an idea of the things that you can do. Neutral building C has 2 actions, this one or this one, okay, divided by the vertical divider. But you see now there's a white diagonal divider here, which tells me that for this action, I can either do this or this. Okay, so I can do this or this as one action, and then this as a second action. And so this action, this symbol with the cube, with the number moving down arrow, that means you move your certificate cube down. So you gain a certificate, okay? And then this symbol here, if you can see it, it's hard to make out, but that's the bugle symbol. This means pick up a objective card, either from one of the 4 that's showing or from the deck. This symbol means this is your train, and it's kind of that's your train meeple there. And so this says you can move your train 1 spot forwards for every engineer that you have hired, okay? And and we'll cover that in a second. This building here, again, this building here gives you an option in one action. you can remove an outlaw from the outlaw area of the board, okay? And you're gonna get a bonus depending on what's over that outlaw. It's usually money. And then this allows you to move your train forward 2 spaces at a cost of $2. And then as another action, you can do an auxiliary action. That's that cog symbol. And you can do it once or twice if you have unlocked twice, okay? And so on and so forth. So that is basically how that works. I guess I should show you this one as well. So this one is the cattle market building. So this allows you to ditch a black cow for $2 and then go to the cattle market and buy cattle, okay? Okay, so you do your actions and we're gonna come to Kansas City in a minute. And then after doing your action, then you just draw up to 4 cards, okay? All right. So what are the actions? Okay, so we talked about hiring already. Hiring is pretty straightforward. You just get your guys that are available from here. You can only ever hire from above where this round marker is. You can never hire people that are just entered the job market next to that marker. Anything above that is fine. So if the marker is like way down here and there's people all scattered around here, you can hire any of those people at that cost, okay? And so we talked about hiring already, that's fine. The next thing we talked about already is building buildings, okay? We did that already, that's fine. So the next thing we should talk about is the cattle market. Okay, so the cattle market is here. We already said there's 10 cows here that get replenished only twice a game. And basically how you buy cows is explained by these symbols here. Okay, so what this symbol is telling you is that to buy a yellow, red, or blue cow, you need a certain amount of money and a certain number of cowboys. So this blue guy, because if you remember, the cowboy's blue, okay? So depending on how many cowboys you have in your employ will determine what cows you can buy, okay? And you can see that the higher value cows require more money, $6 and $12 at the minimum, and more cowboys, at least 2 cowboys, up to 4 cowboys, okay? And so what happens, let's say you only have 1 cowboy, well, your options are limited. If you only have 1 cowboy, you can buy one of these 3 value cows for $6, or you could buy a 4 value cow for $12, which is kind of expensive, okay? Now, once you go up to 2 cowboys, now you could use both cowboys to buy a 3 value cow for only $3. That's half the price if you had 1 cowboy, okay? Or you could use 2 cowboys and $12 to buy a value 5 cow, okay? And you see, if you get to 4 cowboys, your value 5 cow is half the price, okay? So it's in your favor if you want to buy high value cows to have more cowboys. Now, if you have 2 cowboys, what you could also do is just spend 1 cowboy and $6 to get 1 level 3 cow, and then do this action, which is to spend 1 cowboy to actually put 2 new cows from the deck into the market. So that's how you can add cows to the market, okay? If the cows that are left here are not to your liking. And so you can split your cowboys up. So if you have 4 cowboys, for example, you could spend 1 cowboy and $12 to buy a 4, and then 3 cowboys and $6 more to buy another 4. I mean, that's not an efficient way to do it, but you could totally split your cowboys up like that depending on how many cowboys you had. And so that's it. And then you take these, and these go into your discard pile like they've been played, and you won't get to play them again until you can recycle your deck. Okay? So as you've already seen, as you go to these buildings, you get the opportunity to discard these cows for money. Okay? And so they go into a discard pile. And eventually, when your deck is out of cards and you need to draw up to your hand size, then you would reshuffle everything back together. And so that's how you end up getting new cows that you just bought into your hand. So it's worthwhile to find ways of cycling through your deck. That's why you want to ditch cows all the time to get money. Okay? All right, so that's how the cattle market works. The final thing we should talk about here is Kansas City and the train. Okay. So, when you get to Kansas City, which is here, you're going to just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, in terms of what you do. So the first thing you do is you pick one of these 2 tiles and you place it on the board. These are usually hazards or outlaws, okay? No problem. Then you place, then one of these 2 workers you put into the job market, okay? And as we said before, so if you were to put a worker in the job market as it stands right now, you would actually push this down and it goes here, then the next one goes here, and then the next one would push this down again and goes here, and so on and so forth, okay? And that's how the game progresses. And then number 3 is either a worker or a hazard or an outlaw, and so if it's a worker, you put it here. If it's an outlaw or a hazard, you put it on the board, okay? So once you've done those 3 things, then you do step 4, which is to cash in your herd, your hand, okay? You can add any certificates that you use to add value. So here, if I have 2 certificates on my board, I could choose to add 1 or both of them to add 1 or 2 value to my herd, okay? And then that value you get in money. And then you discard all your cards into your discard. And then at the end of all this, you're going to drop a brand new hand. So that's a good way of cycling through your deck, okay? So if you can get an empty hand, empty deck by the time you get to here, when you cycle through here after ditching all these cards, you're going to get a whole new deck and all your new cows. Then, in step 5, you have to pick where you're going to deliver your cows, okay? And so now we look at these cities again, and you see that there's a number below them. For example, St. Louis says 4, okay? Bloomington says 6. So what you need to do is, depending on the value of your cattle, determines how far you can deliver these cows. So if you have a value of 7 in your hand, when you hand it in at Kansas City, you could deliver up to Bloomington, because 7 is greater than 6. But you could not deliver to Peoria, because that requires at least 8 value. Okay, and you see here, New York City requires 18 value, okay? And Kansas City will keep any value of cows, okay? And it will give you $4 for doing that. So that's what this says. However, every time you deliver to Kansas City, you're going to lose 6 victory points at the end of the game, okay? So let's say I handed in a 7 value herd. What I would do, now I want to deliver to Bloomington, okay? So I'm going to take one of my discs from my board, okay, and put it on that spot. Now you see here that these early lower cities are all white discs, but here, if you get higher value cities, they're black. There's an option of adding a black disc. And if you look on the board, many of the discs are just white, squared, but some of the discs are black, okay? So that, and these are the higher value ones, like increasing your hand size and increasing your move distance. So the better deliveries will allow you to remove the better discs, okay? But to start with, I'm going to deliver a 7 value herd. I'm going to take this disc, okay, and put it on the city I want to deliver to, okay? And so that tells me at the end of the game, I'm going to get value for that, okay? And so what else does this show you? So this, and so the other thing you note here is that you may have to pay money to get there. So if my train, okay, and you see here this track has numbered spots, okay? And so every time you move your train forward or back, you move it forward or back just this number of spots. If there's somebody's train here, you skip them as 1. You don't count that spot, okay? So to move 1 with this train in front of me is actually, that's 1, okay? Okay, so let's say my train is here. And so you can see here that in order for me to deliver it to Bloomington, my train would have to be here, actually, level with the city, okay? So if it is level to the city I want to deliver to, or the train is in front of the city, let's say I deliver to St. Louis, then that's fine. That doesn't cost me anything. I can deliver there. If I want to deliver to Bloomington, but my train is only back here, I need to pay money to the value of the number of these red X crossing symbols till I get to my destination. So 1, 2, 3 crossing symbols, so I have to pay 3 money to deliver my herd to Bloomington. But I can do that even though my train is lagging behind. So it behooves you to save money to move your train up, okay? But you're always going to have that money because you just sold your cattle herd for a bunch of money, okay? So you'll always be able to pay that amount. It's just that do you want to or not, okay? Okay. So that's basically how that works. Now, each of these cities you can only deliver to one time in the game. The two exceptions are you can deliver to Kansas City as many times as you want, but every disc you have here at the end of the game is going to cost you 6 victory points, which is a big penalty, okay? And then the other place is you can deliver to New York City as many times as you want, and every disc you have here at the end of the game is going to give you 9 victory points. So that's a good if you can do that multiple times, okay? The other thing you notice here is these green arrows that go between these two stations and have like a bonus. Okay, so for example, between Chicago and Toledo here is 6 victory point bonus. This means if you have a disc here and here at the end of the game, you're going to get 6 victory points as well. Okay, and same with all these. And then these bonuses here that aren't victory points is something that you get right away the minute you place a disc on each side of it. So if I have a disc here and then I place another one here, I'm going to get an objective card for free right away, and that's it. Okay, so these are end game victory point bonuses for delivering adjacent cities here, and these are just instant bonuses here. Okay, so that's one way of getting rid of discs, is when every time you go to Kansas City, you're going to get rid of a disc by making a delivery. Okay, all right. The other way of getting rid of discs are these stations. Oh, sorry. So these stations, of which there are 10, okay, when your train gets to this point and you need to move it again, you have the option of skipping the station or taking this little turning and going into the station, okay? If your train gets moved backwards at some point and then you move forward again, you can have that choice again, okay? When you go to the station, if you pay this money, you're going to get that victory points at the end of the game because you upgraded that station and you put a disc there, okay? A white disc, but in the case of these stations further along the track, they're going to allow you to move black discs, okay? But you see here also they cost you more money but give you more victory points, okay? So if you upgrade this station, you put a disc here, okay? You get that bonus at the end, you pay that money. If you're the first person here, you could then take this station master tile as a bonus. And this tile, for example, would give you $2 right away, the top section, and the bottom section would give you 1 victory point per worker you have on your board at the end of the game. So they give you an immediate benefit and an end game bonus, and you just keep this forever, okay? Now the downside is you have to replace it with a worker from your board, and that person is lost and just sits there for the rest of the game, and so that's lost. So you lose a worker in exchange for the station bonus, okay? Okay, and there's only 5 opportunities to do that because you see these more advanced stations don't have station master bonus tiles, okay? Now, you can upgrade and pay the money and get the victory points, but not take this because you don't want to give up your worker, and that's fine. Then you would move on, and the next player, if they go in here, has the option to do that as well, okay? All right, so that should be pretty straightforward. Okay. So that is basically what happens when you get to Kansas City, and that is basically the game. The last part of your turn is to draw up your hand size of 4 or 5 or 6 if you've expanded it, and that is basically how you play the game. Now, it might seem like a lot of things, but really it's quite straightforward once you get into it. Now, in terms of at the end of the game, how do you win? So the person with the most victory points wins, and you get victory points from many sources. So first of all, you get victory points for every $5 that you have. You get victory points for all the buildings that you have on the board, adding up all the value at the top. You get victory points for any bonuses by where you've put your deliveries. You get bonus victory points from your station master by upgrading stations. You get bonus points for your objectives you get bonus points for every hazard that you remove, because they all have bonus point values. And then you get bonus points for every cow in your deck that has bonus point values. And then finally, objectives. So for every objective you completed, you get bonus victory points, but if you declared any and you didn't complete it, you get penalty. Finally, on your player board, you will get 4 victory points for having lots of workers. As I said, 4 for having 5 or 6 of any worker. You'll get bonus victory point if you remove that particular black disc with the bonus point symbol above it. And you get 2 final bonus victory points if you were the one who ended up pushing this marker off the board to signal the end of the game. So there is extra incentive to actually end the game just for that 2 points there. And that is how you play Great Western Trail. So thank you for watching that video. I hope it was okay. It's live stream and we had some technical difficulties. My mic ran out of batteries and my camera kind of conked out at the beginning. But hopefully we still covered everything you need to know. Do read the instructions. This does not replace reading the instructions. And I hope that people found this video useful. Give me some comments below, please. Good ones and bad ones. We're trying to make this as good as possible. And hopefully we'll catch you guys next time. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you later.